Hello everyone, my name is Michael and I'm one of your discussion leads for this week. The article I read was The Ethic of Expediency, Classical Rhetoric, Technology, and the Holocaust. It was written by Dr. Stephen B. Katz. So the main idea is the ethic of expediency in technical writing and deliberative rhetoric was at least partially responsible for the Holocaust. The word expediency means the quality of being convenient and practical despite possibly being improper or immoral. Convenience. And the term deliberative rhetoric means a rhetorical genre used to convince an audience to complete or not complete an action. Persuasion. So here is some background information on the author. Dr. Stephen B. Katz was an assistant professor of English at North Carolina State University, and he has articles published in Technical Writing Teacher and in Constructing Rhetorical Education. The article begins with an excerpt from a Nazi soldier in a memo written to his superior concerning technical improvements for vans used to gas prisoners. According to the author, it's a nearly perfect technical communication from a writing standpoint. However, it's too technical and too logical. The memo's style has an ethos of expediency. The writer shows no concern that the purpose of his memo is the modification of vehicles not only to improve efficiency but also to exterminate human lives. He refers to human lives as load and the subsequent killing of those lives as operating time. This is the ethical problem in rhetoric the author wants to discuss. So to perform well in an organization, you have to adopt the ethos of that organization. By having that based solely on expediency, the rhetorical problem arises. The memo author was only performing his function effectively, an ethic of expediency. And this ethic is very predominant in Western culture. The author argues that this form of ethos embraced by the Nazi regime is at least partially responsible for the Holocaust because it formed the quote-unquote moral basis of Nazi society. So to help prove his point, the author cites William Grimaldi, who interpreted Aristotle, and he argues that in rhetorical theory, the role of ethos is an essential link between deliberation and action. Logos considers the means necessary, but pathos and ethos create the action. So to better understand this, I took a look at Aristotle, the Greek philosopher who studied many things, including rhetoric. He claimed that the three modes of persuasion in rhetoric are ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos, or ethics, is the use of the speaker's credibility to persuade others. Logos, or logic, is using facts, figures, and reason to tell someone to do or not do something. And pathos is appealing to the audience's emotions. So Grimaldi basically says that the emotions and ethics are what motivates action. The problem in technical communication and deliberative rhetoric generally, then, is not only one of epistemology, the relationship of argument, organization, and style to thought, but also one of ethics, of how that relationship affects and reveals itself in human behavior. Most technical communications are based primarily on arguments of expediency rather than worth or goodness. And according to Grimaldi, deliberative rhetoric is only concerned with decision and action. Therefore, technical writing always leads to action and it always impacts human life. So the program Hitler had was ethical because it was based on a philosophy that led to power. Any violence which does not spring from a firm spiritual base will be wavering and uncertain. It lacks the stability which can only rest in fanatical outlook. This is a quote by Hitler taken from Mein Kampf. Both Hitler and Aristotle did not distinguish expediency and the good as long as rhetoric serves its end. Conceptions or ideas, as well as movements with a definite spiritual foundation, regardless of whether the latter is false or true, can, after a certain point in their development, only be broken with technical instruments of power if these physical weapons are at the same time the support of a new kindling thought, idea, or philosophy, also taken from Mein Kampf. Science and technology became the basis of a powerful ethical argument for carrying out any program in Nazi Germany. Hitler's technological expediency supported his ethical expediency. So in the memo, the technical improvements of the vans were the only criteria necessary to consider. Nazi Germany was an efficient and industrious nation that lost themselves in the ethos of technology. Hitler used the ethos of expediency to create the technological ethos, which was then taken to an extreme. He then embedded it in rhetoric along with technological expediency to create the ethos of Nazi Germany. And through this ethos, with propaganda, Hitler's rhetoric was used to convince the audience that he had a high moral character based on the ethic of expediency. So I just thought this was an important quote to the article. To understand the Holocaust from a rhetorical point of view is to understand the extreme limits and inherent dangers of the prevailing ethic of expediency as ideology in a highly scientific and technological society, and how deliberative rhetoric can be subverted and made to serve it. So the conclusion. Hitler's rhetoric, politics, and ethics are not only based on insane hatred and racial prejudice, but also on the ethic of expediency carried to extremes and unchecked by any other ethical concerns on science, technology, and reason gone awry. The Holocaust is a time when the ethic of expediency was used without regards to human welfare and can be used to learn from our mistakes and teach us about technical communication, composition, and rhetoric. Here are a few questions to think about. How would you counter an ethic of expediency that is very much predominant in a capitalistic society such as the US? And how would you recommend technical communicators teach ethics to students, if at all, when such courses nearly rely on an ethic of expediency? Thank you for watching my presentation, and I hope you have a good week.